Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Authors on the Air. I'm your host, Deborah Ledford, and I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am to feature Wall Street Journal bestselling superstar author Isabella Maldonado on the program. Say hello to the folks, Isabella.
How are you all doing?
I'm thrilled that you can join us to talk about your latest release from your Daniella Vega thriller series. Okay, so first you gave us A Killer's Game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And next in the
Yes.
series is A Forgotten Kill. And this one is recently nominated for the 2024 Edgar Award in the Best Original Paperback category. Congratulations!
It's
That
very
is huge,
exciting.
huge. And your latest, the one we're going to talk about today, is A Killer's Code. How about you give us a bit about the lead character, Daniella Vega, and the overall story?
Sure. Daniella Vega, I wanted to do something completely different with this lead character. She is an FBI agent, but she is very different from any other character I wrote. I wanted to give her an interesting background. So I was doing some research and I found out that there are female Army Rangers, which is something I didn't know. The first ones graduated from their Ranger school in 2017. And then in 2019 was the first time that a female Army Ranger ever led a Ranger group in combat. So it's relatively recent, but there are definitely, and I thought, you know what, this is the kind of character that I would love to celebrate because they don't change any of the standards, by the way. There's photographs and actually video of these first women, really pioneers, and you see them going through the obstacle course and they are carrying one of their fellow Rangers, literally will carry him over her shoulder as
Whoa.
she's going through the course, because the whole point is they really can't change the standards. You have to be able to get your buddy out of danger. And
Right.
so these are the elite, the most physically and mentally fit women on the planet, the 0.0001%. But they did it. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to write a character who is, smart and has this elite training, but she also is a code breaker?
Right.
Because why not, right? And so I really wanted to lean into that because I enjoy riddles and codes and puzzles, and my readers do too. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and have fun with that. And then she joins the FBI and merriment ensues.
For sure. And so, with A Killer's Code, it's so fascinating. I mean, all three, the first two books, lead up to the crescendo of
Yes.
A Killer's Code, and
Mhm.
you add an extra layer of fascination in A Killer's Code because essentially the clues Danny and her team are following, they've been laid out by a now dead killer. Can you
Mhm.
go about how
Mhm.
you? Oh my God! I mean, that's fascinating and brilliant, brilliant the way you did this.
It was a huge challenge. And so now I will tell you the secret story behind the story, because
Ooh.
people, they might be wondering, I've never talked about this before, but people might be wondering, why did she make that choice? Because I will tell you, this was like playing 3D chess writing this book. My
Right.
editor and actually both of my editors and my agent and my husband would also tell you how grueling this
Oh,
was. All the rewrites and everything to make it work. It's like, why put myself through that? Why not just tell a straight story? Here's why. Because I had one of these situations in book one, and it's okay to say this because it's pretty obvious. It's not really a spoiler because, it's right on the back of the jacket of book three
uh-huh.
that that the killer that she's partnered with dies. He's dead. And so in book one, what happened is, and this was unexpected to me, the readers loved this killer. They
Oh yeah.
loved him
Yes.
and they really connected with him. And so it started because my editor, I was busy, how you're always writing a book ahead. So I was already well into writing book two. And that had a totally different plot, with the killer, he didn't figure. So it was time to write book three. And my editor's like, can you bring him back? And I'm like, no, he's dead. And then it was funny. And my agent too, she and I were also both talking, brainstorming different things. And it's like, look, I can't cheat the readers. Do you remember that famous Kathy Bates scene in the movie? Oh gosh, the Stephen King book, Misery. You remember
Misery,
when
yeah.
Kathy Bates, and she has that famous scene where she talks about how the car goes over the cliff, but then in the next book, you know, the car manages to turn and somehow, and she's like, that's cheating. You can't
Right.
cheat readers like that. It's not
Right.
fair. And I agree. I'm
Yep.
like, he was dead. And we even came up with a special term for it. We said he's dead, 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 because he was really dead. I mean, I
Yeah.
killed this guy so hard. There was no coming back. So, but so then I was given the impossible task of how do you bring him back, but yet he's really still dead, and you can't cheat the readers.
Right.
So the only way that I could consider doing it, and it took me weeks to even get the concept completely ironed out,
Uh-huh.
was to basically have it be, and I still can't believe I did this. It's so book three is both a prequel and a sequel to book
Mhm.
one.
Yeah.
So so the only way to do it, so there's like flashbacks where you see what happened and you get it from his point of view while he's still alive and all the things he did. And then you also see the current time frame where he left he left a message, and then they recovered the message after he died. And you get to see, the sequel part of the book is they're following all the clues he left behind before he died, because he
It-
he figured there was a price on his head, and he knew this would
right.
probably happen to him. And wow, it was tough, but
I bet it is
so much
so
fun.
brilliant. I mean, I
Yeah.
I mean, so brilliant, and the pacing was perfect. But and then her dealing with, oh, I kind of know this. I know this guy, so oh
Mhm.
my God, it was fantastic. So this
Yeah.
is, as with all of your books, a nonstop action-packed thriller series. Um, and for Killer's Code, I'm just gonna mention not even all
Yeah.
of the locations. You take us on board Learjets and cruise ships, locations in New York, Monaco, the Caribbean, Las Vegas, the J. Edgar Hoover Building in DC, the Pentagon, and you wind up in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona,
Oh,
where
you forgot Denver. We go to
oh yeah,
Denver too.
yeah, Denver, where a rockin' sequence plays out in the Sonoran Desert. I'd like to read just a,
Yes.
a, a snippet of that
Yeah.
from chapter 52. So we're
Yeah.
well into it. Let me tell you what. Hold on, people. As Vega tackled Angela to the ground, he sprawled on top of them. A torrent of incoming fire from twin guns mounted on the helicopter ripped through the sandy earth where they had been standing moments ago. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that Flint had thrown himself face down. The helicopter zipped past them, then swung around in a tight circle with its nose pointed in their direction, preparing to strafe them a second time. What?
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, we can, and that's just, one snippet of a scene. And I
I
mean,
know.
we can count on
Yeah.
you on every single book that you write. There are elements of, I mean, we're talking hardcore rock and roll action sequences
Mhm.
that, I mean, you put the reader right there.
Mhm.
And what's also interesting that I find fascinating, I mean, you are so super smart and brilliant. Readers can always count on cutting edge technology and spyware and weaponry and really cool
Mhm.
toys. How do you go about
Mhm.
researching those elements without giving away trade secrets, of course, but everything you present,
Yeah.
you've researched,
Mhm.
it's real stuff, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. I do push the boundaries a little sometimes, but it's always I do tons and tons of research, and with science as well, but I like to look at the most cutting edge stuff. And it's kind of funny because sometimes in my research, like I thought to myself at one point, I didn't end up using it, but I thought, oh, maybe there'll be some sort of scientific stuff that can work on cloaking. And so I did like
Ooh.
I spent a couple of weeks doing all this research. It turns out there is a lot of work being done. And we meaning like the Pentagon and stuff, does have some cloaking technology. It's not perfect yet. You don't just like, it's not total invisibility, but it's very cool. And I ended up not going in that direction. I went in a different direction. But just yeah, it's true. You kind of become like this research junkie. And it's funny because
Right.
at one point, my husband was asking me, he's like, why are you doing all this research? I spent weeks studying science for this.
Mhm.
And I said, because I don't want to be in a situation where I talk about this cutting edge science and it turns
Mhm.
out it's already been invented like 10 years ago. And it's just something I'm not familiar with because I'm not in the military. And I don't
Right.
work at the Pentagon. So I'm like, I can't say it's cutting edge if they've already done it. So it really needs to be like something that will happen now or next year or whatever.
And you
So,
never know
but
what you're
everything
gonna,
I
yeah, you never know what you're going to find
mhm,
during that through that research that might help you in, the, your
yep.
current, what's going on. Hmm.
Exactly, and it is some of what happened, actually. I do describe the science, some of the science that they're working on, and that really is, like, pushing the edges, and it is something that they're working on,
Hmm.
but it's not quite there yet, so that's fun, and, because I also didn't wanna do something that, like, the moment the book is published, it all becomes like, "Oh, yeah, we're already doing that either," or next
Right.
year. So I wanted it to be something that it will take them a few years to develop, and, but it's pretty cool what's going on with stuff like that.
Wow.
So,
So after
but yeah, with
three
the
books,
finale, I did huh? Oh, I was just
no,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
with the finale, I did wanna give her, you were reading about the helicopter. That's a Black Hawk helicopter, and yeah, I had to do a ton of research on Black Hawks and
Oh,
how they
yeah.
work, but, it's all open source, by the way,
Yeah.
so I make sure I'm not giving away
Right.
anything, too important. But, I did want to for this climax, I wanted to sort of lean into her military background, even though
Mhm.
she's with the FBI, but I'm like, "You know what? She deserves the kind of climactic scene that an Army Ranger would thrive in, and that it would actually call all of that into play." And I had a ball doing it, and
Oh,
at
yeah.
one point, as I was writing it, I'm like, "This is the wildest climactic scene I've ever written. It's
Yeah, it's tough.
crazy."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun, and people are loving it. People think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
great.
Oh, yeah. So
So
after three books working closely together, you two
mhm,
leads, Danny and Wu, they can
yeah,
now communicate in unspoken code. I mean, we're talking hand signals, facial
yeah,
expressions, body language. Others,
yeah,
they may not detect, but they're quite clear about the two of them. Um,
mhm,
that had to have been fun, because you're writing a male and a
oh,
female character that are so
mhm,
entwined that
mhm,
they know what each other are thinking.
mhm. Yeah, and I based that on my own experience, in law enforcement. You would sometimes you would on a squad, you would work together with someone, and especially if they're in the adjoining area, you're out on patrol together, you respond together to all kinds of things. You get to the point where you can do that. You go to a scene and you can't say it in front of everyone without giving away and putting yourself in danger and stuff. So you after a while, you do develop this unspoken communication with a partner that you're working with or
Uh-huh.
a colleague that you're working with, especially when it involves dangerous and life-threatening situations. It's an adaptive thing that all humans can do. We all have the ability to, and I do think our minds are more than we give it credit for, and there is a way to communicate with people.
Right. So we've known each other for a long time. We have the same agent,
Yes, for
and
years.
hi, Liza, and also
Yes.
the with the same publisher, Thomas and Mercer. And I know for a fact,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's like, I don't know, 15 years at least, maybe longer than that we've known each other.
Yeah,
Um,
okay, well, now I'm gonna tell something else that I don't think I've ever said, but this is absolutely the truth. When I moved to Arizona, that was nearly 16 years ago, you were the first friend I made.
nice.
The
It was
very
just was a
first
time, right?
Arizona friend I made.
Yep, yep.
Yep,
And we hit it off right away. And
we
you vetted
did.
all of my law enforcement stuff, and
Yeah,
I mean, I just adore you.
yeah.
And I know for a fact that you are the hardest working author I have ever encountered, ever, ever. You work so hard and are diligent and professional and kind, and you help others. And you have 4 separate thriller series to your credit, including
Mhm.
one you
Yeah.
co-write with
Mhm.
Jeffrey Deaver. Um,
Mhm.
that's a lot of characters to create, and you make it,
It is.
even the secondary teammates, that's a lot of people to keep in your head. And every one of them is so distinctive and interesting. Um,
Mhm.
so kudos to you on that. I don't know how keep amping up, but and even though the female leads are all Latina, right?
Mhm.
And they all have
Right.
different lives, and everyone, of
Mhm.
course, in the world is distinctive and interesting. But you add so many layers,
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
for Danny, um, with the relationship between her mother, and her
Mhm.
siblings. Um, how
Mhm.
psychologically interesting is that for you? Do you like to get into that? Not only, it's almost the break between the action and the go get them and the weaponry and the whole thing, that she then has
Mhm.
to become
Mhm.
human with her people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's especially important with a character like Danny Vega, where she can almost seem over the top, like a superhero type if you're not careful. So I
Mhm.
really had to give her feet of clay, and I really had to make her complicated and layered, and have
Right.
her own. She is definitely, all of my characters are flawed in their own way, and they're all different. And that is something that I do seek to do on purpose, because if you look at it one way, you can say, well, the characters that I write, um, they do tend to be like, the main character is a Latina law enforcement of some kind.
Mm.
Um, one is a police detective, and two of them are FBI agents, and one is a federal agent with HSI. So they're all different. But they're law enforcement. So you
Right.
might be like, well, if I'm not careful, they can sound like the same one. So I really did lean into going out of my way to make them all extremely different.
Right.
And
And
I'm glad that you've seen that happens.
oh
Because that's
yes.
very intentional. Very
Yeah. I mean,
intentional,
you
and,
you absolutely know which series you are reading, from
mhm,
from the character.
yeah,
Absolutely. No.
yeah. I think that's important, because you don't want the readers to ever to feel that way. It's kind of funny because, I think at one point, I think, during one interview, I think someone had asked me, well, do you feel like the readers, will automatically think they're all the same, because of that? And I'm like, well, do readers think that they're all the same because every character is a white male,
I know,
or every
right?
lead character? So no. So, everybody's different. It's all about their humanity. So
Right.
that's what you do. You lean into their humanity.
Right.
And one of the other fun things I did in book 3 too was, each book you get to know a little more about Danny in particular. And in
Right.
book 3, I really finally bring out, the worst thing that happened to her, and you really kind of learn why she left the Rangers, why she left the Army without retiring. Because that was
Right.
something that I was asked early on after the first book. It's like, hey, who would leave after,
Right.
like 10 years? And it's like, well, there's a reason, but I wasn't ready to put it in book one because book one already was full. So
Right.
this was the time to bring it all out and to explain everything that happened to her and the
Right.
emotional impact of that.
Right.
So,
And you tie
yeah.
everything together so perfectly. Every circle is closed. It's brilliant. So, do you have anything exciting coming on the pipeline?
Um, well, as you know, I am writing a series also with Jeffrey Deaver, and so the next thing that's coming out is book 2 in that series. That'll be published this September. We're
Mhm.
in copy edits on that together, so that's a
Nice.
lot of fun. Um,
Exciting.
and then, so that's the new thing, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's so much fun to write with him. He's just fantastic.
I'm
So I
sure.
love it.
And he adores you. All right, everybody, here we go. A Killer's Code. You're going to love it. Oh, so spectacular. Isabella, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure and a joy and an honor. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah. One of my
Thanks, everybody.
dearest friends, and we get to talk.
Yeah, I know. It's so much fun. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.